Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
In this section, we are going to talk about how to create visualizations around our data. For some of us, this is the most important and most valuable part of Power BI. So let's get right to it. Well, notice here I'm currently in the report view. Earlier, we were in the table view, we were in the model view. Now we're going to be in the report view. And in this section is where we're going to create our visualizations. Now you'll notice here I have this page 1. I can add on more pages and more pages. And for some of us, we may want to create a dashboard and then have another dashboard, depending on what we are trying to communicate. So each of these pages can be a new dashboard depending on what you're wanting to communicate around your data. All right, now how do we start this? Well, if we look on the right-hand side, you're going to see we have visualizations. And under visualizations, you're going to see a bunch of different chart types. Maybe you're going to do a pie chart, a donut chart, bar charts. You got these KPIs, you got mapping. Depending on what data you have is going to determine which of these visualizations that you choose. Now what we're going to do is first just choose a visualization. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose this one right here, card. I click on that and you'll notice that nothing happens. It's waiting for us to put in a data point. You can see here it says select or drag fields to populate this visual. Well, let's go ahead and go over to here to my invoice data, and then very simply I'm just going to choose sales. I choose that, and then magically now I have this beautiful KPI or key performance indicator that's now showing me beautiful and nice, clean, easy to read data so I can actually tell my story in this nice, beautiful way. Very nice. Now, if I want to change this to something else, I can easily do that. So if I wanted to override this with a pie chart, in this case, it wouldn't make sense to do that, but it is very easy to do. Let's go ahead and bring that right back, and you can see I can override that. Now, these can be moved around in any way you like. They can be resized as well. And you will notice that in the visualizations pane, I have these 3 tabs up on top. This one here is going to say add data to your visuals. You can see here they are right there. There's a little arrow pointing to it. And then here is where you can format your visuals. Your callout value, your category label you want it to be on, things like this in terms of adding on different properties. So let's go ahead and choose another one. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to click away from this. And this time I'm going to just simply choose this little pie chart. I click on that once again, and then I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And now from here, you'll notice that there is this legend option here, my values, my details, etc. Because now this pie chart requires a certain type of data to populate it to add on those visuals. So let's go ahead and now open up to both of these. Now, if you remember earlier, we were working with data modeling. So I can now combine the 2 of these data points then to create something beautiful and complex, but again, telling my story between both of these data points. So let's say, for example, I just want to know my quantity of sales. I click on the checkbox, and you'll notice it pops right up to show me all of my sales, essentially mimicking what I see here. This isn't really very interesting, not very informative, really not telling my story until I add in another character. So what we're going to do this time is very simply just choose store name. And now you can see I get something a little more interesting very quickly, very easily. And let's say I wanted to change this to, let's say, a donut. Bam, you can see how quick and easy that is to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and resize this, move it around, bring my KPIs over here. Beautiful. Now we're starting to cook. And let's just do one more. And let's say you want to see the same data, but maybe you want to present it in a slightly different way. Let's now work with a table. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that nothing is selected, because if this were still selected and I choose one of my visuals, it will override it. All right, but this time we're going to do it in a slightly different way. I'm going to choose my data this time. I'm going to go over to here to sales. And you'll notice how it automatically populates a different type of chart, which is going to be by default going to be one of our column charts. And then I'm going to bring over to here to store name again, and that just comes right up, and I can move it around and do whatever I like from here. All right, so just notice that happened automatically. Earlier, these were sort of empty shells waiting for us to populate, and now you can see it automatically creates this type of chart. Now, I don't want that. Like I said earlier, what I'd like to do is have this become a table. So what I'm going to do is just override this, click on table, and now you can see I have maybe a little bit more accessible, maybe a different way of doing this. Let's go ahead and bring this over here, and then I'm going to add on one more, making some space to this, and I'm going to bring in my quantity. But this time, I'm going to bring it into here. So I'm just going to go ahead and just drag quantity into here, and now notice I have this beautiful looking table with all my data points. So this is really starting to come together. Okay, so practice that, and what we're going to do after we come back is we're going to start to format this a little bit better. We're going to see about data points, different colors, and we're also going to learn how to filter. Okay, so again, practice this, make sure you got it down, use my data, use your own data, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Before we start formatting, let's learn how we can start making this into a page that we can use to start creating out our dashboard. First thing I'm going to do is just rename this. So down below, this tab here is called Page 1. So very simply what I'm going to do is just double click on it. I'm just going to call this Basic KPIs. And then up on the top here, I'd like to put a title for the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is just kind of marquee over everything here and just drag it all down just like that so I can have a title. Well, Power BI allows you to put in a text box. So within the Home tab, what I'm going to do is just very simply click on Add Text Box. And you're going to see it's just going to pop in wherever it pleases. I'm just going to go ahead and drag that just by clicking and dragging that up. And then I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. And just very simply, I'm just going to go ahead and just say Sales KPIs 2023. And as I am typing this, you will notice here that I have this little quick toolbar. I can just highlight that and make that a little bit bigger, a little bit more important, make it bold, choose whatever font you like, and I will just go ahead and choose like that one. Very cool. Then if I want to change the color, let's go ahead and do that one, click away, and there you have it. So that is going to be my title. Now if I decided I wanted to edit this or do anything else to it, I can go ahead and click back on the text box and notice this appears once again. And if I wanted to actually make this go clear across on the entire sheet, I can move my mouse right there on the far right hand side and just click and drag that till it goes yay, across there. And I'm going to do like this and have that be again, once again, a little bit bigger. Let's make that 36 this time. And let's bring this back to black. And very easy, I'm going to go over here to Calibri, click away, and now I've got a nice little title for that. Now keep in mind that text boxes are more than just titles. If you add in a text box, for example, and you wanted to do things like bullets and numbering and just make some notes on your text, and you want to make it a little bit more interactive and a little bit more informative, you can do that very easily with just a standard text box. And just like you might in Word, you can see we have all these abilities to do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this box by simply selecting it, going over here to my ellipsis, and then very simply choosing remove, and now I am back. In this next lesson, we are going to discuss how we can work with some of our visualizations, but changing some of the elements, potentially adding some on, potentially removing them, and potentially just making some edits to them. So what we're going to do is just work with this little donut chart, and we're going to come over here to our visualizations panel. And then if you recall earlier, we talked about how there are these three tabs here. We're going to go over here to the second tab. Now, these are going to be all the different elements that I have associated with this donut chart. Now you're going to see here I have the visuals, and I have general, and I have some of their hidden ones over here as well. And you're going to see that under visual, if I wanted to just turn off my legend, I can very easily do that, or turn it back on if it's not there. If I do have it currently on, you're going to see I can change the position of it. Let's go ahead and make this in the top right. See, okay, do I like that? No, not so much. Let's bring that back over to the top right. Again, over here, maybe in a different way. Beautiful, I like that. And let's continue on now. Again, noticing that we're inside of the legend and we have different options for the legend. So I've just changed the position. Now let's go ahead and change some of the text. Click on that. Maybe you want to make it bold. Notice how that just got bolder. All right, maybe you want to make it a little bit smaller. Maybe it's taking up more room than it needs to. Maybe you want to change the color of them. You can very, very easily do that. Bring that back to a standard color black. And now let's go ahead and just say, hey, you know what? I actually don't need the title. Notice it has store name here. I can very easily turn that off. Beautiful. Okay, really doing well. Let's go ahead and scroll back up here, and I'm going to collapse legend So now I just see different things here. Like how about this detail label? Click on that and you can see maybe you want that, maybe you don't. And then if I want to go to more options here, where do I want the labels to be? You can see here I can just say inside if that works better for you. Maybe that reads a little bit better. Try something else. Let's go ahead and say prefer inside or prefer outside. All right, and now what that's going to do is, depending on how big your chart is, what kind of data you have in there, it's basically going to tell you, hey, listen, when things start to grow or I start kind of moving things around, I would prefer it to be this way or that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and say inside this time. I really like that. I can see everything looking good. And then I can tell it, well, what are going to be the elements that I want inside of this chart? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can really start to blow it out. And you will see that Power BI repositions everything for me, which I really like. Now I click on the drop down and you can say, well, you know what? Maybe I don't need all of these things here. Maybe I just want the category and the percent. That's kind of nice, right? So you can see I can see this and then I relate to that. Or maybe you just want to toggle through all these and then decide what do you want, what's going to be the best thing for you. Now, if you hover over each of these, you're going to see it's going to give you the information about it. Okay, it's going to give you that category name. It's going to give you the numbers as well as the percentage. So you can see that's really nice to get some very quick information. If you click on one of them, what that does is it actually filters it out just by that one variable. And you'll notice something really cool about this is that as I click on these, not only does this change, but all the other data sets that have these elements in them also change. So if I'm only working with this curio shop, notice only curio shop appears here as well. Kind of nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is bring it right back so everything is there. Just very simply right click on it and you're going to say clear selections and everything comes right back. So let's go right back to our visualizations again, selecting our pie chart, come back over to here, and then if it pertains to what you were working with here, you're going to see that you have a rotation option because maybe you want to tell your story in a slightly different way. Rotating it might allow you to then see your data in a particular angle to then again communicate what you're trying to communicate. And I can go ahead and reset to default and you can see there that is. And lastly, let's take a look at the slices. So each of these elements here is a slice. So we have a blue slice, we have a pink slice, we have a purple slice. And when we click on this, it's now going to give us the option to be able to customize this. So let's go ahead and make our curio shop a different color. So let's go ahead and make that this color. And you'll notice that changes to this mustard yellow. That's pretty nice. Go ahead and change the supermarket to maybe a little bit of a different color. Let's go to that one. Okay, and it's all coming together for me. So really nice, again, to have the option to be able to customize this however you like. Now let's go ahead and see what we can do as far as any other different types of formatting. Let's go over to here back to our KPI, and you will see that things are going to be a little bit different because it is a very different type of visualization. So when I go over to here, I'm going to see that I have fewer options because this is a donut chart with many more visualization options, or this is our card, which is going to be a lot fewer. So if I go over to here, you can see here's my call out value. All right, essentially just that. If I wanted to make that bolder, I can very easily do that. If I want to make that bigger, I can very easily do that as well. And maybe you want to change the color. Let's do a green color. Well, guess what? I don't see any green there. So what I need to do here is go to more colors, and I'm just going to choose this nice little kind of dark green. Click away. Beautiful. Love that. Now let's come back to this, and you're going to see that I have this display units, and it's set as auto. But if I say none, notice what that does. It's now going to show it actually as millions because maybe that's exactly how you wanted to do it. And it overrode then. You're like, hey, why are you truncating this? Why are you abbreviating it? So what you need to do is say display units and say none. If you want to bring it back to what it was before, bring it back to auto. But you're going to do that right in this section here. You're going to see that it is going to allow you to have that kind of creative control. All right, now let's go ahead and just say, do I want to have the category label? Yes or no. And I kind of like that, so I'm going to keep that. Beautiful. All right, and then let's go ahead and go down deeper to this. Well, my category label is a little bit buried, so let's make that bold. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Now we can see exactly what it is. Okay, now if we go over here to the General tab, you're going to see there's a whole bunch of options here. Under Properties, You're going to see just the height of it. Of course, we learned how we can expand it out a little more manually. The position, the padding, all this good stuff here. In case you wanted to really build out your dashboards, you can control how the layout is. You could add on a little background color if you want to. Go ahead and make that a little more subtle. How about just a little kind of gray background? If you wanted to add a border around it, you can do that. You can add in a drop shadow if you want to as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. And the rest of these are essentially just spice to taste as you come along here. And once again, let's come back over to our donut and we'll go back to our visualization options and we'll go back to general, and you're going to see a lot of very similar options are going to be available for you here as well. And then finally, let's go over to here to our table. You click on your table, you might see some very different options here. Notice here is different grids and the values and the column headers. So for example, let's go over here to our column headers. And if I wanted to make these a little bit more bold, I can do that. If you want to change the text color to make it maybe dark blue, right? I can do that. Let's make them even a little bit bigger. Make that stand out a little bit more like a table. And then let's go back over to our totals. I really want to make those bigger so they really stand out. And finally, one of the options that I'd like to do is change the number format for the quantity. Because notice how this is coming in, and these have commas, but these do not. So in order to do that, I need to go back to my original data source. So if I go back over here to my table view, and I go over to here to quantity, you're going to see that inside of the column tools tab is this formatting option. And then very simply, I can choose that. And then it just kind of does some stuff there, really nice. And if we were to look for it, somewhere in there, there's going to be commas. But understand that this is summing up all of the quantity. So even though that these may not go into the thousands, it doesn't matter because the total still is connected to the quantity. So if I come back here, we will see automatically now they have commas in there. So now that we know a little bit more how we can format these and make them look the way that we want, in our next lesson, we're going to start building out our dashboard a little bit more and placing these a little bit more strategically in our different worksheets.
Hi, from everyone at Simon Says It. We hope you're enjoying this training lesson. Please like this video to show your support for the channel. If you want to take your learning further, earn a certificate for this course, and gain access to over 200 courses ad-free, click up there and go to simonsaysit.com. Thanks for watching, and back to the course.
In this lesson, we're going to follow up on our previous lesson where we're going to just build out our dashboard a little bit further by adding on additional pages. Now you see here I currently have my basic KPIs, but I'd like to have just one page just for these guys here as the name pertains as just the basic KPIs with just some kind of high level numbers, and then I'm going to bring over my charts and graphs and some other more complex, more granular data onto another page altogether. Now I have a couple of different options for doing that. Number one, I could just select this one that I like and then cut it and then paste it into a new page, just doing that. So let me go ahead and just do that real quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, select this now, and just say cut, come over to here, and then very simply choose paste. Now that's kind of nice, I like doing that, but I really like that title and I want to keep some consistency. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to undo this. Now I'm going to come back to the same state that I was at originally, and now instead of doing that, I'm just going to very simply duplicate this page. So I'm going to right click, say duplicate, and now what I can do is keep everything that I have here in terms of the formatting, but then just delete all these guys just by selecting it, hitting delete, selecting, hitting delete, and then coming back over to here. And now I can say sales, quantity, by store, and more. See that? Because this took a lot of time to have to create this, so I might as well just duplicate this and not have to reinvent the wheel. So then I just double click on this, and I'll just say sales and more. Very good. Now I have that all set up. Now another way to save some time would be to duplicate one of your graphics and then just override it with a different type of visualization. So very easily I can right click on this and just say copy, copy visual, and then very simply click on paste, and now that goes right on top of it. Click and drag that over here, maybe make that a little bit smaller. And then I can start playing around with all the things that I did before in terms of just maybe changing it to a different visualization. So let's just choose a really simple one, easy to read, stacked column chart. And then from here, I can start playing around with all of the different elements I learned about earlier as far as the formatting. So let's just go ahead and just do a couple of these. So I want to make everything in my x-axis maybe a little bit bigger and bolder. You can see that. Very easy to do, kind of like that, but not so much. And then I'm just going to collapse that. And then do I want the titles for this? Nah, probably don't need that. Again, I'm inside my x-axis. Get rid of the titles, don't need that. And then if I go to my layout, just check it out. Just notice you can see, in case you wanted to just choose the minimum category width, you can adjust that in case things are getting a little bit out of line. And now let's go over to here to our y-axis. Now our y-axis is this right here with our number labels. Now for that one, for sure, my y-axis, I know I don't want the title. I can get rid of that, right? It's taking up unnecessary room. And then you see here I have your range. Now your range is the numbers going from 0 all the way to this number here, all the way to 140. If I wanted to kind of create the illusion that there's a lot more to go, I would maybe make this maximum go all the way up to say like 160 million. Now keep in mind, you do have to type out the entire number to create that range, not the 160M in case you wanted to do that. All right, now in case you want to turn off the values, you can do that too in case it's not relevant for you. So I'll go ahead and collapse this and collapse that. All right, so just a little bit of review on how we did that. Now let's come down over here to our columns. And you can see here, now I'm going to have the ability to adjust each individual one. Now I have 3 blue ones coming in. So now all I need to do is just choose which category I want to manipulate. So computer store, let's go to that. You can see that's blue. Doesn't make sense for that to be blue. Let's make that green. You can see there it is. Let's now change corporate. Let's go ahead and make that maybe purple. Okay, very nice. Now, what I'm curious about is how things have gone over time. So what we're going to do in the next video is start working with our date of purchase items and see how over time all of our data has behaved. Following up from the last exercise, let's discuss how we can work with dates within Power BI. So what I'm going to do is just very simply create a new page here. And you're going to see over here inside my invoice data, I have data purchase. If we look at our original data, you're going to see here, we have a column data purchase with literally thousands and thousands of transactions. Now, if I come back over here to my visuals and I just very simply choose data purchase, you're going to see every single one of those line items now appear. And if I make this longer, I make it wider, you're going to see there's every single one here. Now, this isn't really very compelling, and it's also going to take up too much room. And it's also not really including any sales figures. So let's go ahead and just take care of that first. And you're going to see now, I'm going to make this wider. And you see that every single one of these is my sum of my sales. And then you know what? Why not just bring in this extra additional calculated column that I created as well. So we'll say, okay, beautiful. That's how that goes. Now, one thing to note, in case you're curious, is if you click on any of these column headings, this is going to allow you to sort it by ascending or descending order. You can see, bam, now when I clicked on that, I have this little triangle, and this is going to go from highest all the way to the lowest down at the bottom. If I click on this one, this now is going to make this. For this particular one, you're going to see July, Q3, etc., all that right there. Now, I don't want all this data. This is a little bit too much. So what I'd like to really do is just see all the months bunched together. I don't really need to see the days. I don't need to see the quarters. I don't need to even really see the years. So what I'm going to do now is go back over to my visualizations, and you'll see that there's this section for columns, and underneath data purchase is all of these extra date hierarchies. So I don't want to see the year, I don't want to see the quarter, and I don't want to see the day. Now, as I'm doing that, notice what's happening to my visualization. Beautiful, love that. So I don't really need all this space. Now I'll go ahead and close this out. Now, one thing to understand, if you wanted to save yourself some time, you could have just come over to here inside of the data purchase, open up to your date hierarchy, and then really just choose those from the beginning. So let's just go ahead and do that one more time. But this time let's do it with quarter, and then let's go ahead and just add on quantity. And you can see, there you have it, and maybe that's what you're looking for. So let's convert this now to a lovely looking pie chart there. Let's make that a lot bigger. See how we can use that. That's beautiful. And let's just convert this to something a little bit more compelling. So what I'm going to do is just select the table, and we'll come over to here to this tree map. I do that. I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see all of our data. And I like this, but I think there might be a nicer way to show this, because notice how we have the sum of, all that good stuff there. Well, you know what? There's a way for us to now control what those labels are. So if we look over to here under values, we can see we have sum of sales and then sum of sales and quantity. If you click on the little drop down here, you're going to see how we have a lot of extra options here in terms of changing what the actual output's going to be in terms of average, minimum, all that good stuff. But really why I'm here is just to rename the visual. I don't want it to be called sum of all that stuff, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. Beautiful. Now, nice and clean right there. I love that. Now, of course, if you wanted to add on some other variables, like the data labels, we can go ahead and do that. So again, telling our story nicely, let's go over here to Format Your Visuals, turn on your data labels, and you can see now I can see what each of those things are. And then everything else you might want to do, just like we've done with all the other ones. If you wanted to make your labels a little bit bigger, you wanted to change the color, everything is all happening right inside of the Format Your Visuals, and then checking out all the different other components you can do, coming here to General, turning some of these things on, turning them off, everything that you want to do here. Now, one thing we talked about earlier was the tooltips. Right? So if you don't like those tooltips, you can turn those off. So notice when I move my mouse over there, I don't get the tooltips. So you see there's lots of ways to work with your data, including all of your dates, making them into different visualizations, showing different components, and also working with filtering out some of your category elements within the date. So only your month shows, you're removing your quarter, you're removing your year. You have all the different choices you want, and you can even start off that way just by going over here to your date hierarchy. Okay, try that out, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.